Thank you all for joining us. As we said, this is like a webinar format, so we can't see all of you, but we know you're there. So thank you so much for joining us on your Tuesday evening. Some of you I may have had the pleasure of working with before on some other Mousetrap events. If I've not had the pleasure of meeting you yet, my name is Jamie Boddy. I am a performer turned entertainment specialist, presenter and NLP coach working with creatives. I work with creatives to help them connect the dots to build the career they want. And I've had the pleasure of working with Mousetrap now for a couple of years. Nick, do you want to give us a little bit of an intro? Because your background with Mousetrap is different as well.
Yes, it is. So hi, everyone. I am Nick McClean. I'm an actor, singer, dancer under duress. I am playing Bok in Wicked. And I first came to Mousetrap with the C145 scheme, which I think has a different name now. I'm not sure what it's called. But yeah, and through there, I was in the youth forum. And then I've stayed in touch with the charity because I love all the work that they do, and I think it's so important to get everyone involved in the creative and performing arts as much as possible. So yeah, that's just a little bit about me.
Little tease there, little nugget. Nick will be doing a bigger interview with us very shortly. I'm just going to give you a little intro to the session, what's kind of been going on, and then we'll hit the floor with Nick before we get cracking on the main bulk of the session. So for those that don't know me, as I said, my background goes from performing, and I transitioned via arts marketing before retraining as a journalist and NLP coach. So I've kind of gone from being in the show to marketing the show to covering the press event of the show. And I know a lot of Mousetrap members cover the whole broad spectrum of creative industries. It's not just people on stage, it's arts marketers, it's graphic designers, website designers, photographers. Mousetrap caters to so many people in the creative industry. And that is why resilience and resourcefulness is so important to me, and why I love talking about it, because creatives are so resilient and resourceful, even if they don't realize. The skills we learn as creatives are so transferable, and sometimes we just need someone else to help kind of shake it up a bit and help us to see the value of our skills outside of an audition room, outside of a meeting, outside of our portfolio. I know also there are some people in this webinar who are 15 to 18, so at the moment they're looking at applying to universities, A-levels, GCSEs. So I understand there's a whole lot of fear around that at the moment with the arts world. But the arts world is here, and when we talk to Nick, he'll even talk about a concert he did last night as well. So there is work, and we hopefully at the end of this you'll be a bit more equipped to process how to find work and also how to approach it differently. So 2020 and 2021 probably didn't go according to plan for anyone. I think that's safe to say. And then that partnered with how you may be feeling at work, school, in your health, in your home life, can add up. You can maybe feel isolated or a bit overwhelmed or a bit lost. And I think sometimes when you can do anything, you do nothing. So the aim of this session is to help kind of reel it in and give you a bit more focus, and just to feel more confident in the skills that you have to offer, and maybe highlight what skills you don't have, but the skills you might want to learn to get the job or the career you want. So this session won't magically make all of your problems go away, but it will hopefully help you to process your feelings and thoughts in a way that are constructive, and it will allow you to tackle situations differently, kind of to flip the script so you can see the problems and obstacles and a way to climb over that obstacle or to smash through it. Everyone here is a young adult or an adult, and you are decision makers, but just because you're making decisions doesn't mean that you have to know everything. So for you, I'm 33, I can vouch for you. It doesn't necessarily get any easier the older you get, but that's okay. You're allowed to ask for help, to lean on friends, to ask the questions. But you do have internal resources that will help you get the most out of what you want. And we have to kind of come to grips with who we were last March going into this crazy world is different than who we are now, almost a year on, how we're hopefully coming out of this. We are a different person, we are changed. A way that I think helps kind of explain how our minds work, especially in the arts, is if you look at your brain as a phone. All phones have apps. Some apps make your life easier, so you can phone your mum, use a calculator, do Google Translate. And some apps you didn't even know you had, or you can just download a new app if you need it. But a lot of apps don't necessarily have relevance for us and what we do. And the more apps we leave open, the more our battery drains, the more our capacity and our memory on our phone gets filled up. It's much like our mind. There's so much going on right now at the world that we're trying to focus on, and it's just draining our resources when we need to be a little bit selfish and just look at ourselves. We don't want to be in the bottle trying to look at the label from the inside. It's okay. Self-love and self-care is not selfish. You can be you and take some time to yourself. So that's kind of a little nutshell on why I think resilience is so important. This session is broken down into 3 main sections, which is focus, communication, and results. But before we get cracking, I want to bring Nick back on the microphone. We're going to start off with some positivity and what's going on in the arts world. So Nick, come back on the floor for me.
Hello, hello, hello.
So Nick, you actually had a concert last night. So you're coming to us live from the digital stage. How was that with Leave the Light On?
Oh, it was so wonderful. So Leave the Light On was produced by Lambert Jackson Productions, who have done so much digital theatre throughout the pandemic, which has been amazing. So they were kind of actually ready to go with the first season of Leave the Light On in March 2020. So they had people filming from the Theatre Cafe, which was amazing. And I think they did something like 70 or 80 concerts in the first series, which is incredible. So obviously they've done those, and then they mounted some full-scale shows as well. So they did an online version of Songs for a New World, and I did First Date with them as well, which we filmed at Crazy Cox in London. So yeah, there's just a wealth of digital theatre at the minute, which is so exciting. It's nothing that we ever expected, but it is a really exciting time for theatre, actually.
I think one of the gorgeous things about our community is in COVID, we've not been able to perform, but we've found other ways to engage with our audience, to entertain, not only to entertain others for them, but to, as we were saying off air, to get that applause, to get that feeling of being on stage. So let's talk about Nick. It's like January last year, you're like Wicked, and then bam. So let's talk about how life for you in the last year, like, let's just be really candid about that. Like, what an amazing role in Wicked, and then, oh, okay, that's slightly changing.
Yeah, it was a massive shock to the system, actually. And I think, I went into work that Monday, and the producers came in and they told us, that we were closing for the pandemic. And initially, no one really knew how long it was going to be. So in our mind, we're thinking, perhaps 4 weeks, a couple of months, maybe. And I won't lie to you, I'd been working back to back for a while. So I'd just been doing a panto at the Mercury in Colchester. And then before that, I was doing the Avenue Q tour. So I was exhausted. So the first thing I thought was, oh my God, I'm going to sleep. And I did. I slept for about 3 weeks solidly, which I really enjoyed. But then I realized, the gravity of the situation, and that I wouldn't be going back to work for a really, really long time. And so, your mind starts thinking, well, what am I going to do for money? And what am I going to do to, keep myself busy? So I've had several jobs between then and now, actually, some performing jobs, but also some regular jobs. So I was working in Sainsbury's for a bit, and I my on-off job normally is working as a receptionist at a physio centre on Harley Street. So I was there for a bit, and now I'm working as a receptionist at a dental surgery near me. So I've got my finger in the pies, and keeping busy, which I feel very, very lucky to be able to do. But yeah, it's not the world that I foresaw for myself when, someone called me one day and said, you're going to be in Wicked, you open in January. And I saw myself, there for a while, actually, because it's a show I'm so passionate about. So obviously the journey was cut a little bit short, but we live in hope that we will open again soon, and I will get to go back after a long rehearsal period, please.
Thank you for your honesty and being authentic there. And I think one thing that I really loved is what I think as performers, our foot's always on the accelerator. We're always going, but actually this break forced you to have some self, like you said, 3 weeks to sleep and rest. You've been so busy with work, and you probably wouldn't have taken that time to rest if you Wicked was back in, because you'd be filling your days with, I don't know, it could be maybe a side hustle, seeing friends, visiting family. So there was some positive, obviously, although we want to get you back on stage as soon as we can. It's nice that you actually allowed you to maybe take some time for you.
Oh, 1,000%. And I said this to so many of my friends actually. Never, I think we all have to be very grateful for the time that this has allowed us, because never have we ever had the chance to just stop. Everything stopped, everyone stopped, and we just got the chance to take stock of who we are and what we were doing. And so many people, because of that, have made some life-changing decisions. My agent at the time has actually took a step back and thought, actually, I don't want to do this anymore, because she was exhausted, and stopping during the pandemic allowed her to say, no, that's not how I want to live my life anymore. And so again, I think we have to take some good out of this, and appreciate that actually we've been given an opportunity to take a long, hard look at ourselves and say, what do I want for myself after this?
I love that. And I think we are so multifaceted as creatives, and our skills are so transferable, that even if you do take a little break or a prolonged break, because like you said yourself, I have some friends in the arts who've actually thought, now's time for me to look at making my side hustle my main hustle, or to try something new. And I think the skills that you take as a performer are like so valuable, and maybe we just don't realize when we're in the kind of the tunnel vision of the arts world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always say, me and my friends actually at drama school used to say that we have a degree in blagging, because I actually think that's what it is. It allows you to put on this, persona, and it's a confidence that you can go out and do anything. And you have to be adaptable anyway as a performer, but that then makes you adaptable for the rest of the world. And I think it's something that we all do very well, is slotting in to different positions and places and jobs, because as we know, sometimes it can be quite unstable. So 1 minute you can be starring in a hit musical like Wicked, but of course that isn't always there, and there have to be in between jobs and side hustles, and you have to be able to chop and change very, very quickly. Even, for instance, you could be performing in one show but you're auditioning for another, and so the headspace for that is how do you give your all 8 shows a week, but also keep enough room in your brain, and have enough energy in your body to go and be amazing in this audition or in this job interview. Do you know what I mean? It is multitasking and adapting, and yeah.
And I love that. I think anyone who's listening, who's maybe more behind the scenes, it's the same whether you're a stage manager, you work in arts marketing, if you work as a producer, you have to have all of these skills. And I think being a creative period, you're personable, you're punctual, you dress well, you fake it till you make it. Like Google's your best friend, and you can say, yep, I'll do that. And then you go and find it out. And I think, so there you go. Anyone listening, whether you're on the West End or not, like, you have to use your skills. And I don't know any creative that just has one thing they do, whether they have a hobby because they've got a passion. Like you said, even if you're performing 8 shows a week, you're thinking maybe like, what else maybe I want to show that exercises these skills, or maybe I want to do this. So I think that was lovely. If anyone's got any questions, there is a Q&A box down the very bottom of the screen. We will open up the Q&A to the floor very soon. But Nick, tell us a bit more about your history with Mousetrap Theatre Projects, because there's possibly someone in this webinar who was in the same position as you were a few years ago, and now here you are in the West End.
Yeah, so I was introduced to Mousetrap with my secondary school, actually. So I went to, a couple of years ago, a school called Kidbrooke.
Oh, I think Nick's internet there has froze, or it could be mine. I don't know. Ellie, is that mine or Nick's? Oh, I think you're muted, Ellie.
Sorry. I think it's Nick's. It's not yours.
Okay, so I won't keep moving because you can see me. What I'll do is I'll keep cracking on, and then when Nick comes back online, we'll just kind of stop wherever we are. And I think what's lovely there, what Nick was saying, is about the transferable value of our skills. So again, if someone is watching who is more it's behind the scenes and whatever that is, for instance, myself, when I went into arts marketing. Oh, I think Nick's back. You're here.
I'm back. Oh, I got thrown out.
Oh, I love it. Now we're gonna have to call you like Nicholas because you've been naughty. So, so Nick, the question was, tell us a bit more about your involvement with Mousetrap and kind of how that helped guide you in the world of the arts and the creative world.
Perfect. Let's start again. So I was introduced to Mousetrap when they, a couple of years, I say a couple of years ago, it was longer than I care to admit, but they put on a school's performance of The Sound of Music at the world famous London Palladium. And that was the kind of the first time that I'd heard about them. And I was like, oh, this is great. And then I found out about the C145 scheme, which was where we could go to the theatre and see a show for £5, which was incredible. And I saw some great things through that, Death Trap at the Noel Coward and Legally Blonde. And so it really opened my mind to musical theatre, actually, more so than anything. My secondary school was amazing because we did lots of straight plays, but it was really, really exciting to kind of see loads of musicals through Mousetrap. And that's when I fell in love with musical theatre, actually. And then I joined the youth forum, and I was lucky enough to be one of the original organisers of the very first Mousetrap Awards. So that's kind of, I like to think of that as my kind of Mousetrap legacy, so to speak. And then, yeah, I've been involved with them ever since, really kind of dipping in and out of little projects here and there, just because I think everything they do is so, so important. And, yeah, Mousetrap, I love them. Love them.
Obviously the Q&A box is there, so feel free to start typing your questions in and we will open up the floor in a second. My last question for you, Nick, though, is resilience and resourcefulness in the arts. For you, do you have any tips or tricks or advice you would possibly offer for someone trying to get in the industry, or who's already maybe in the industry but wants to maybe get to the next level?
Yeah, I think what I would say is that you have to, it all starts with self-belief. You have to believe in yourself. And I'll tell a little story now, actually. So I was auditioning for Mountview, and I really, really wanted to go there. I had a couple of friends who had been there already, and I'd seen loads of performers in shows and thought to myself, oh, they're great. I really, really want to go there. So I was auditioning, and I got through. I had a recall, and then I got the rejection. And I was like, no, this is the place for me. So I wrote them a letter and I said, you have made a massive mistake. You don't know what you've missed out on. You need to accept me. And I got a telephone call from the head of acting, called me personally and said, okay, do you know what, come back in, we really, really love this energy, like come back in, we'll see you again. I came back in and I did get in. So I guess the point of that story is believe in yourself, because self-belief is always going to be the thing that takes you to the next level.
Yes, I love that story. Yes, I love it. And that kind of leads in very nicely to the first question. I'm going to hit answer live. Let's see what that does. So yes, it's about kind of coming for self-belief. Any advice for combating self-sabotage?
Oh, I mean, we all do it. And I guess the most important thing is knowing when you are doing it. And then you can kind of backtrack and say, well, what led me to this point of self-sabotage? And I think we have to accept that it's a natural thing and we're always going to do it, but you kind of have to get yourself out of that mindset. And it's about rewarding yourself for achieving the tiniest thing. I think when I came out of college, I would always like buy myself a little treat after an audition or something like that. And I think it's about rewarding yourself for doing something right. And each time you take a little step further, I think you'll slowly stop sabotaging yourself and drive yourself forward.
Yes, love it. I'm enjoying the power of hitting these buttons as well. So mini victories. So how do you handle rejection?
How do I handle rejection? You know what? It's such a massive part of working in the arts, actually, because 9 times out of 10 you're not going to get the job, but you just have to remember that as long as you go in and give the best version of you and show them what you're about, and you've done all the preparation you can, you have to accept that it just wasn't your time. Because speaking specifically of kind of performance jobs anyway, there are 1,001 different reasons why you've had that rejection, and it could be nothing to do with your performance. It could be something as simple as they've got costumes already and they wouldn't fit you, or you're slightly too tall, or you're slightly too short, or anything like that. So
Yeah.
You're never really in control of it. So if you can just take the step back and accept that that you've worked as hard as you can, it doesn't feel as much like a rejection as just it's not my time, and then it's slightly easier to move on.
Yeah, I love that. And I think when you've been fortunate enough to be on the other side of the panel, the more you're in the industry, you realize there's so many cogs that turn to make a show. And I think one thing I always try and teach to clients about is that as a performer, you are a personal brand, you are a business. And I think sometimes that helps you take the emotion out of the rejection, because actually it's more, I didn't fit in that cog system. The questions are pouring in, Nick, so bear with. Okay, how do you switch between doing shows and then doing an interview or an audition, for example, as you were explaining earlier on?
It is actually quite difficult, especially because of the energy surrounding that, because obviously you are going out and doing 8 shows a week and giving your all. And then, you would then normally use the next day to rest, but perhaps you are going into an audition. So it all starts really actually with taking care of yourself and knowing where your limits are. And it's really, really hard to find where those limits are. Whilst I was doing Cinderella at the Mercury over Christmas, and rehearsing for Wicked, I was also auditioning for Dreamgirls at the same time. And I just obviously finished being on tour with Avenue Q, so my voice was absolutely exhausted. But I had a phone call with my agent, and I said, I have to pull out of this audition process because I can't do it all at once. And it's something you have to find it for yourself, but it's good to have a really strong support system around you, because you can talk to them and talk it through. I spoke to my friend Meg, had come to watch me in the show, and I sat her down and I was like, I'm really excited, like I'm really, really want to roll with this, because of course everyone wants to be wanted, but at the same time sometimes you have to step out and say, no, I need to focus on just this thing. So sometimes it will be fine and you can multitask and jump from thing to thing, but also sometimes it's very, very important to say, actually not this time.
I love that. I think sometimes as performers we always say yes, as creatives in general, but you got to think sometimes by saying yes to something you're going to end up saying no to something inadvertently. So you, by saying yes to that audition, would have actually jeopardized your health. So you would have been saying like no to your health or no to your time. And I just think that that's so true. Okay, next question that's been sent in. I recently graduated from Rosebroofer College and studied scenic arts. Is there any advice you would give in getting your foot in the front door?
So, I mean, now I'm basically going to say the complete opposite of everything I just said before. Get your foot in the door. You have to, it's really, really important to say yes. And it might not even be a project that you're excited about or particularly interested in, but you just don't know who's going to be working on it, who you might meet, who you might work with. And so it's really, really important, I think, when you do graduate, to kind of grab onto any kind of opportunity very, very quickly and kind of get your name out there, because as much as you have graduated from Rosebroofer, which is a great school, we have how many graduates every year, so you have to put your stamp on it and say, this is me, this is what I'm about, and get people saying, oh my God, it's amazing. Have you worked with blah, blah, blah? Oh my God, they're great. Oh my God, yeah. Oh, you should hire them for the next thing. It's all about word of mouth. So yeah, just say yes, say yes.
Fab. What has been your favourite digital theatre, film or media you have seen during lockdown?
Oh, this is really, really difficult actually, because I've watched so much. But if I had to pick, oh, actually, do you know what? It has been yeah, it wasn't that hard actually. It came to me. So Curtains was on a UK tour in 2019 and 2020, and it was one of the shows I did in my third year at drama school. So watching that the touring production was really, really special for me, because it was kind of the start of my journey into professional. So yeah, I guess that would be my favorite piece of digital theatre that I've watched during the pandemic. Yeah.
Next one. Oh, someone said thank you, so thank you. Thank you, Jamie, Nick, for the great talk. How do you keep motivated in the industry? There is so much basically going on. They're about to start performing in the show soon, which is recorded. It's hard not to feel the whole thing, basically. There's no audience. Do you have any tips? Obviously, you are no stranger to performing live now. So do you have any tips for a recorded?
Yeah, I would say that you just have to be confident in the work that you're doing. You've done your background research, you know the parts, you know the songs, you know everything about the character that you're playing. So as lovely as it is to have audience reaction, sometimes it can actually stunt the performance as well, because if you're used to getting a laugh in one place or something like that, then suddenly you're hamming that up every night, and it kind of goes a bit awry from where it really should be. So take the chance to completely own your performance and say, this is what I'm giving to people. I am confident in it. I believe in my craft. I've trained in my craft. I know what I'm doing, and people are going to enjoy this. And that's actually quite exciting to be able to just let it go.
It kind of goes back to that whole self-belief that you were championing, which is great. Also, we will try and get through as many questions as we can now. However, if any spring to mind after this session, do email Ellie or the Mousetrap team, and they can send over kind of a chunk to Nick or myself, and then we can kind of get that out maybe across social media or whatnot. Next question. It's kind of tackled part of it already about foot in the door, but Emma feels that casting directors will cast more safely now due to COVID, and maybe not take as many risks with casting. Do you have any insight on maybe what you would suggest at the moment, if you're newer to the industry, how to kind of get yourself out there during this COVID world?
Do you know what? It's really interesting that you say that, because I sort of disagree actually. I think, big scale, multi-billion, $1 million pound productions, of course, will do what they've always done, which is, seek out massive names for leading parts and things like that. But I think some of the most exciting theatre is actually regional theatre. And I don't know if anyone watched Rent at the Hope Mill, for instance, but for the most part that production is completely made up of new, fresh, exciting talent. So I don't think you have anything to worry about with concerns for that, because I think there are so many people who are bored of seeing the same faces, and they are looking for new, exciting people to cast. So honestly, stick with it, because I can't wait to come and see you in whatever it is that you're going to be doing, because I love seeing new things.
Amazing. And that feeds in very nice to our next question, basically about someone who doesn't live in London. What advice would you give? And I think the whole digital world has shown that you don't have to be London centric now for the industry, but would you give any advice to someone who wants to make the move to London for their career?
Yeah, I would say obviously it's lovely. It's great living in London, but theatre in London is very big. It's a massive thing. So depending on where you are and where your hometown is, I'd also look at the kind of shows that are around you. There's some incredible regional venues. Some that spring to mind right now are Sheffield Crucible, and what's the one with the Chichester. There we go. My mind's going mad. And they put on, as far as I'm concerned, some of the most exciting work, because it is really about you getting in a room with a director and a choreographer and a musical director and putting your stamp on a show. And it's very different to, you know, kind of, for instance, going into a show like, you know, Avenue Q or the Book of Mormon, which has opened in America, and they've kind of got what they think the show is. And then everyone from America will fly over to London or to Australia, and they will open the show, but it will be an exact carbon copy of that. And so with that, you have less creative control, and it's kind of, you know, you're told not exactly, but mostly exactly what you need to do. And so it depends. There's no right or wrong. I would say it's what we do. But yeah, I just think you don't necessarily have to be in London to be a successful actor. I think there's a massive you know, pedestal that they put the West End on, and it's not the case. You know, I can't say it enough. Some of the best things I have seen have been, you know, outside of London.
Yeah, there's quite a few questions. So what I'm going to do is maybe just pick a handful more. However, what we will do is whatever ones we haven't answered, we will send to Nick or to myself, and we will get back to you, whether that's sent out in a group email or whatnot. I'm just conscious of your time, Nick, and there's a few other things I want to go through in this session where we look at limiting beliefs and kind of all about what is that mindset. So in a nutshell, Nick, self-tapes, what to wear, how to basically how to stand out in a self-tape. Any tips or tricks when it comes to self-taping?
Yeah, it's self-taping is really weird, actually, because, you know, you'd go into an audition and the panel can kind of get a grips of who you are by having a little chat with you. So I think the most important thing for a self-tape is to just be you, authentically you. So that I don't think there's any massive stress. Wear something that you're comfortable in. Just make sure that you know your setup is great. You know, you've got good light. If you can get a ring light, that's what I'm using. That's why I'm all like bright right now. If you're singing with a track, make sure that the sound is behind the camera. Things like that. Be confident to try and show them that you're a nice person to work with, because at the end of the day, that's all anyone wants, is to work with nice people.
Yeah, love that. This is the last question I'm going to pose to you. And then, as I said, don't worry, if we've not got to your question live, we will definitely forward these on to Nick or myself, and we will get these back to you. I'm sure the Mousetrap team have some amazing way of getting these to you. But the last question I want to ask is, what advice would you have given to a younger Nick?
Oh, that's really hard. Do you know what? I answered this in another question and answer, and I can't remember what I said. But if I had to pick one piece of advice to give to myself, I guess it would be never give up. And I think it's really important because, you know, I think lots of us, and I speak for myself, but you might have gone through it too, Jamie, lots of people who want to work in the arts are often told by their families that it's unstable, and, you know, go and get a proper job is what I've heard so many times. And, you know, you see your family and they say, oh, go and work in the bank. But if you know that this is what you want to do and you believe in your heart of hearts that it's the only place for you, just believe in yourself and stay true to yourself, because, you know, what we do is so incredible, and not everyone gets to go to work and love every minute of their job. So if you can, and if this is something that you're really passionate about, put all of your energy into it, because, you know, it's just wonderful.
Absolutely love that. And I think everything you said there is going to resonate with so many people. Nick, thank you so much. As I said, if we've not got around to your question, do not worry, we will get those answered to you. So Nick, thank you so much for your time. Hopefully keep your eyes on the Wicked website or social media, because they will let you know when the show's back out, and he is gracing the stage. So thank you so much, Nick.
Thank you. Have a good webinar, everyone. Bye.
Woo! So yes, as I said, we will forward all future questions onto him. Quite a few questions coming up were still about how to market yourself and mindset. So I'm going to tackle some of those now, and hopefully answer some of those questions myself. So do feel free to tag on some more questions as we go. So now I want to talk to you a bit about focus, and some of the questions were about kind of how do you stay on track and not get distracted. And I think physically it's so easy to see how we progress. We can see, if you want to go to the gym, you will see yourself grow in muscle size, you can lose weight. Someone might compliment and say, oh, you're looking great. Also, if you do the extreme and you work out too much or eat poorly, someone might say to you, oh, you look tired. That's something mums love to say, or you look a bit out of shape. Well, when it comes to mental fitness and mental wealth, it's a lot harder to track and to train because it's just you in there. Someone's already mentioned the questions as well about always saying yes. And I think as creatives and freelancers, we're always saying yes. And even for those that might be in a more full-time position, you've still got that pressure of the rat race. You might want more money. You might want to get a new car. So we're constantly going. But as I said earlier, sometimes we're saying yes to everything. We actually inadvertently say no to things because we don't realize. Mental fitness and focus is about the ability to focus on the right things at the right time, be able to accept that there are some things you can't change and some things that you can change so you can live the life you want and thrive in it. So I'm going to give you 3 quick tips to help with focus, because I know at the moment we're all sat at home and we are probably easily getting distracted. So the first one is, what is the ideal focus block? And there was actually a study done in the 80s, and it's called the Pomodoro technique, where an entrepreneur used a tomato timer, like a cooking timer, and he batched all of his tasks together into similar themes, set that alarm, worked purely on that theme of tasks, and then when the alarm went off, had a 5-minute break. He found that by grouping similar tasks together, you streamline your resources, increase concentration, refrain from multitasking, and you actually do things more at your optimum. If anyone here is a fan of Friends, the TV show, those episodes are typically 25 to 28 minutes long. And that's not because the writers didn't know what to write. That's because they knew that that's the optimum time for their audience to engage and remember and take all this information in. One thing that I love, it's called Parkinson's Law, and it's work expands as to fill the time available for its completion. We're probably all guilty of saying, I'll do that tomorrow, I'll do that in 2 days. And then all of a sudden that task that could have taken you 40 minutes will then therefore end up taking 3 days or 4 hours over the entire day. So a task I want you to do, so please make note of this task. I won't get you to do it now because obviously time, but I want you first of all to look at your work week and find out what times of the day and what days you work with more energy. So I know personally, I'm quite a morning person. So up until 11 a.m, I try not to take any business calls or emails, because that's when I'm most productive. So I work on my business, my personal brand, and then from 11 o'clock onwards, I will work with my clients and on the work they need. I also know for me, I work quite well in the weekend. So I always take a Tuesday and Friday typically as kind of my weekend. So one thing I want you to do next week is almost keep a diary of your days and when you have the most energy, because then you'll get the more work done, and also batch your tasks. So think everything work related, I will put a triangle next to or put in one list. Everything home related, such as doing the dishes, laundry, put a square next to, and so on. Because quite often we do the things that we don't want to do, like file our tax, do our laundry, things like that when we have the most energy. And when it comes to the things we love or the things we need to do for our career, we do it at the end of the day when we have no energy. Your time and your energy are 2 of your biggest assets. So don't give them to people, projects, or thoughts that don't deserve them. So you want to be proactive. Another good tip when you're working at home is to try and have 1 room or 1 area per task. So if you do your work emails or your schoolwork or your UCAS application, the deadline is Friday, on the sofa, and then you also watch TV on the sofa, have your dinner on the sofa, it's easy for you to blur your entire day. So work can take longer. You end up working while you're watching TV and eating. So try and have a designated area. So sit at your desk for your work. Same with your phone. don't start your day off by looking at your phone, because if you follow people that maybe might make you feel bad about where you are, or you check your work emails first thing as soon as you roll over, that could set your day off really badly. So set your alarm on your phone, put it somewhere else in the room. So when your alarm goes off, you have to actively get up, get the alarm, and then when you leave your bedroom, that's when you check your phone and emails. Try to only have your bedroom for sleep. And my next tip on focus is our phones. So our phones are multi-purpose right now. It's our window to the outside world. It's our best friend and our worst enemy. And we are constantly consuming. We use social media, our emails, news, and we rarely take time to focus on ourselves. So one task I want you to try and do is optimize what you do use for your career. And again, for those of you who are currently applying for colleges, university, it's that workload. For those in the industry, it could be designing your website, your social media, your show reel. Try and set those as actual, structure that time in. And if you can't structure your time, at least structure your time off. So you might not be able to map out your entire day. However, you know between 1 and 3, you're going to have an extended lunch. And with social media right now, I think if anyone's watched Marie Kondo on Netflix, does it spark joy? No one actively wants to feel inferior. So do not follow accounts right now that are making you get in your head about it. Mute them, unfollow them, do what you need to do. Also, cause and effect. Look at what you can change and what you can't change. So at the moment, you can't change that we are in a pandemic. You can't change that. However, you can change how you feel about that. So if checking your work emails makes you grit your teeth, and it's like get really tight and you're muscular, what can you change about that? Can you pair that up with another habit? So when you boil the kettle, that's when you check your work emails, or you check your work emails and then you do a workout, or vice versa. What coping mechanisms can you put to help you along the way? One thing that really helps me is motion is followed by emotion. So think when you are stressed, your body will tense up, your jaw will tighten, or when you're nervous, you'll get butterflies and you'll keep moving. But think how you feel when you do yoga, or you go swimming, or you laugh so hard at your favorite film, you feel relaxed, you feel open. So try and change your body language the next time you're feeling a bit overwhelmed or stressed. And if your body's really tight and you're a bit wound up, breathe into it and try and change your body language to change the emotion that's associated with it. That's quite a lot there. It's a few tips and tricks. I'm going to try and power through because of time and get to some of the questions that we asked. The next thing I want to talk about is communication. So not only how we communicate with others, but how we communicate with ourselves and self-talk. As creators, we talk internally quite a lot, whether you're at drama or dance college and you're looking in the mirror at yourself and comparing yourself to someone else, or whether you're in arts marketing and you're going for interviews. And quite often we compare our behind the scenes, our day to day, with someone's end product. We see their best life on Instagram and we compare our day when we're maybe trying to find work with their picture. And actually that's their journey. We need to focus on ourselves and stop working in our career and work on our career and work on ourselves. There was a study done in the 70s that broke human communication down to 3 stats. So 55% of communication come from body language, 38% come from tone, and only 7% actually come from the words that you said. And we've probably all heard it. It's not what you said, but it's the way that you say it. And I think those stats are, again, 55% body language, 38% the tone, and 7% the spoken word. So when you're having that internal talking to yourself and you're maybe saying, I don't deserve this, I'm not good enough, that's only 7% of how you're communicating. 7%, that's nothing. And it's the same, that goes to show how we can maybe read into an email or read into a text, because we can only see 7% of how they're trying to communicate. That brings me on to self-talk and how that can be both positive and negative. Again, I'm not good enough, I'm always a failure, I don't deserve that, or I'm not good enough for this audition. It's so hard to get out of that mindset, especially when we're at home at the moment. We're by ourselves or in our bubble in 4 walls. But there are a few tips and tricks you can do to try and improve your self-talk. It's all to do with our internal doorman. So we've all been to a club or somewhere VIP, or you want to be in the coolest gang at school and someone won't let you in. There's like a doorkeeper there. And same with our minds, when we're letting the information in. Our mind, it's like that snow globe. We're shaking it. There's so much thought going around, so much information. That it's not until the snow starts to settle, we can see the individual flakes. And it's the same right now. We're at home processing so much information on our phones, where we are in a pandemic, that it's hard to kind of reel in how we actually feel or what we want to do. And if anyone here drives, when you're trying to buy a new car, all you see everywhere all of a sudden is new cars. Or if someone's looking to audition for drama school, probably all you start seeing is Facebook adverts for drama school, or hearing of someone who went to drama school. That's because you've trained your doorman to let that information in. But what we want to do is train our mind to let in the more positive information. So if you keep saying to yourself, I'm not good enough, I don't deserve this, internally, you're building up those neuro pathways, you're strengthening that negativity. We want to change that. We want to flip that script. You want to start talking kinder to yourself. So next time someone says, how are you? Be confident, be selfish and say, I'm actually really good today. Start trying to breathe that out there, build up those positive pathways, because that will start allowing the more positive information in, and you'll start seeing more opportunities. Sometimes in the creative worlds, we have our blinkers on. We don't see other opportunities. My career has been built on seizing opportunities, whether that's taking a low paid internship. My very first presenting job, I was on the press night for Showboat, and the presenter didn't turn up for the promo Vox Pops video. And they just said, oh, who can do this? And I was like, I can do this. And again, that performer skill set, being confident, faking, ad-libbing, got me that. And my first interview I ever did was with Sir Ian McClean. So it's being quiet in your mind, so you see more opportunities and you can talk kinder to yourself. And this leads me on to the last point I want to talk about, which is your limiting beliefs. As we were saying, you're not good enough. A limiting belief is kind of like a crystal maze. You know, when you're at a fun fair, you're trying to get out of this maze, and you run full force, you headbutt the glass. Everyone laughs at you, you feel a bit awkward. So the next step you take, you put your arm out. You don't quite go as far. Actually, if you went that 1 inch further, you'd realize there's no glass there. That's what a limiting belief is. And it's separating fact from fiction. If you said, I have no money in my bank account, that could be a fact. If you've literally got no money in it, that's a fact. However, if you say, I can't earn more than £25,000, that's a limiting belief. Why can't you earn that? And I think when you start looking at yourself as a business in the creative world, you start thinking, right, what skills do I have? What jobs are hiring those skills? What skills don't I have? What skills do I need to learn to get the job I want? I want to remind everyone this session does finish at 7. So if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the Q&A. I've had a few sent through already, which I'm happy to start answering. Questions that were sent in before the workshop. One was about websites. How and why should you have a website, and what should you pop on there? Websites are your dream home. You don't technically own your social media. If the platform changes the algorithm or it crashes, your whole account's gone. Well, as long as you pay your monthly subscriptions, you have your website. That's yours. You own that. It's your dreamland. You can build on it. So a website is a fantastic resource to have if you have the time and the money to put into it. You want to make sure that it's keyword search heavy. So if you are a scenic arts designer, you want to make sure that those keywords are on there. So when someone Googles it, over time, it will appear higher up in the Google search. You'll be surprised the amount of actors that have websites that don't actually mention they're an actor in London or something. They'll be like, I'm a performer, but making these key words you need so you can be found. So if a casting director Googles actors in London or Googles your name, you want to appear, because 92% of clicks come from the very front page on Google. Let's see, any questions? Feel free to keep them coming in. Someone's mentioned about social media. Social media is an extension of you and your personal brand. So if you are a freelancer, you are a personal brand. It's a mixture of the visuals. So it could be your logo, it could be your headshot, it could be the way you dress when you network and audition, but also your values. What do you represent? What steers you? I always say, and there's one of the many quotes that goes around, your personal brand is what someone says about you when you leave the room. What impression are you leaving with someone at that interview, at that audition? And then it goes into an extension of social media and your website. Don't leave your talent just in the audition room. If you're doing a 16-bar cut of a song, or you've gone into a 20-minute interview, there's no way you can unpack all of your skills and value in that isolated time. So having a strong online presence and a website is an extension of you and your personal brand. As a performer, you can only perform to the size of the audience of that theatre, 500, 1,000 people. Having a strong online presence allows you to perform to thousands and entertain countless people. I'm going to keep going through these questions and see if I can answer them. How do you stand out in an audition? Again, it's really researching who are you auditioning for. I've sat on the other side of the panel for many shows now. It's having confidence, researching who's on the panel so you know what they've recently cast, what type of song is appropriate for that audition. Just because you have a rep of maybe 3 or 4 strong songs, which one is the most appropriate? If you have the capacity to learn a new song that's more in line with it, great. However, if you're not a strong singer, for instance, and you've got 4 songs in your rep, don't bust yourself trying to learn a new song and get in your head about it before the audition. Pick what one works best for you. Find an outfit. Clothes are like a sense of armor. Find an outfit that you know looks good when you walk in the audition room and that you feel confident in, and always try and go above and beyond. Be nice to the pianist. Be nice to the person who signed you in, because I've helped at auditions and people have been rude to me as I've signed them in, and then they've gone in the room and I'm sat on the panel, and the casting director will be like, what do you think of this person? I'm like, they're really nice. However, they were really rude out in the waiting room. Do we want to put them on tour for 6 months if they've got quite a negative disposition? Again, feel free to keep those questions coming through. There's lots to get through, and as I said, if we don't get through all of it right now, we will Ellie and the question by question so everyone gets them answered. And that was about social media, we just answered. Any tips on promoting an online charity concert if it doesn't feature any famous names? In the process of creating my second YouTube concert for Acting for Others with a few other grads and emerging performers. Again, so think of everything you film. How many pieces of content can you make? Can you get rehearsals of behind the scenes shots? Can you do a teaser trailer? Can you look at theatre publications and pitch to them? What is your USP? What is your hook? So for this, the angle could be charity concert, recent grads, pitch to the stage, Broadway World, say recent grads get together for charity concert. There's a USP there, there's a hook. Think what makes us unique, what makes us stand out from all the other online performances right now. Famous names, I think people are getting to a point now where the same names are being used quite often. So I don't think Lockdown 1.0 last March, yes, they wanted to rejuvenate theatre, but I think now that's not such a thing. So think of your USP and multi-purpose as much content as you can from that. You want to build the buzz. You want to launch far enough in advance to generate that awareness. It's like a mini sales funnel. Build that awareness so someone converts to a fan and then goes through to buy a ticket. So many questions here. What would you give to someone marketing a fringe show? Very similar. Again, look at everyone in the show. Is there a regional newspaper you can reach out to that they, because obviously newspapers love it when there's like local boy or local girl makes it big in a show or makes in a city. So look at regional press, look at radio, social media. Is there any incentive for recommendations? Are there any charities or youth theatres that you can give tickets to or do workshops for? And again, social media, but a lot of people make the problem now when launching a business, they do it like today. And just because it's your baby doesn't mean everyone else is going to like it. Who is your ideal audience? Drill down. Who is my audience? Where are they based? What platforms online do they shop? How can I get in front of those people? Do you think it's important to have a personal brand? Yes, I kind of touched on that already. I think if you are a freelancer, whether you are on stage, behind stage, having a personal brand is important. If you work for a company as an employee, and that's your trajectory, it's not such a big thing. But I think, yes, personal brand, definitely. You want to look at what's your portfolio online, your website, your social media, your CV, how you network. Your brand's an extension of you. You want the online you and the in-person you to match. You don't want there to be any disconnect. Tips on how to get into the industry behind the scenes. I'm a photographer. I'm finding it hard to grow my network and get my work. I would also look at do you have a USP? Do you know people in a particular company or in a particular show? Are there any colleges near you that might need headshots or rehearsal shots? Build that portfolio and word of mouth marketing. So I think now more than ever, people are going on reputation and recommendations. You can't go down the high street and shop, or you type in photographer, so many will come up. So the more, get testimonials from people, and look maybe locally to kind of get your word out there and then expand from there. Ellie, I'm not sure if you want to jump on or whatnot. I understand we are running out of time. And I think the Mousetrap team will be able to send us over the remaining questions. Is that a thing, Ellie, or am I making something up?
Yeah, we will work out how to get the rest of the questions answered somehow, some way. Everyone who's been on this workshop will receive an email from me just with kind of, a thank you for attending, but also clarity on how we'll answer the questions and a few other opportunities as well. So yeah, all good.
Also, I have a podcast called The Business of Show Business. It's currently in 37 countries. So anyone who maybe wants to know how to build a personal brand, it's out there. It's all free on like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, short episodes. So hopefully that might help a little bit. Thank you so much for having me, Ellie and Mousetrap team. There's a lot of information for everyone. I'm fully aware that it might be like, woo, but hopefully it makes you realize there was over 60 people on this at the moment. There's a tribe, there's 60 people wanting to make the most out of this situation in their career. So you are not alone at all.
Absolutely. Yeah, and just a big thank you to Jamie and Nick for running the workshop. It's been fantastic. And yeah, we hope to see all of the amazing attendees at the theatre soon. We really hope so. Hopefully things will be up and running again soon. But yeah, thank you everyone for joining. And yeah, we hope to see you soon. Thanks again to Jamie and Nick.
Thank you.
Have a lovely evening. Bye, everyone.
Bye.